me ask you something. How many times have you been your own worst enemy? How many times have you gotten exactly what you said you wanted? The relationship, the job, the opportunity, the fresh start, and then systematically destroyed it with your own hands? How many times have you sabotaged your own success, burned down your own progress, and then stood in the ashes wondering, what the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with me? Why did I just do that? Here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you about, okay? Most of us aren't being destroyed by our circumstances, okay? We're being destroyed by ourselves. Ouch. We procrastinate on things that matter the most. We pick fights with people, who we actually love and who actually love us. We quit 3 feet from the goalpost. We choose familiar pain over the unknown possibility of peace or success. We say we want to heal, and then we do everything in our power to stay exactly where we are. And here's what makes it even more twisted. We don't even know we're doing it most of the time. Welcome back to Passion from Pain. I am Amy Pease, and this is season 2. And today we are diving into one of the most devastating patterns that I see in every single person who has been through trauma, manipulation, or abuse, including myself. We're talking about self-sabotage, the psychological warfare you wage against yourself. The invisible hand that pulls you back every time you try to move forward. That voice in your head that sounds like protection, but is actually your prison guard. Okay. And today we're going to go deep. We're going to talk about the neuroscience, the psychology, the philosophy, the childhood conditioning, and most importantly, how to break the cycle. Because here's what I know for sure. You didn't just survive all that shit to become your own abuser. Let's let that story in today. Okay. So, what the hell is self-sabotage? Let's define this beast. All right. Let's start with the basics because most people think they know what self-sabotage is, but they're only seeing the surface level of self-sabotage. Okay. Self-sabotage is when your actions, whether conscious or unconscious, create these obstacles that interfere with your long-term goals or well-being. Okay. They keep you stuck. And here's the kicker. Many people aren't fully aware it's happening or why they're even doing it. If they are aware, they don't know why they do it. I sure as hell didn't know why, but I was guilty as charged of self-sabotage in every aspect of my life. I was guilty of it. And it wasn't until I came face to face with this cold, hard truth that if I wanted the things that I wanted out of life and I wanted to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve in my life, I was going to have to figure out how to get over this self-sabotaging bullshit that I was doing to myself. Okay. And to outsiders, the link between your behavior and its negative consequences is obvious. They can see it. How many times, and you can see it in other people. How many times, well, if she would just see that, or if they would just notice, well, all they really got to do is, we do it to other people all the time, but we can't see it within ourselves. Why? That's just the nature of humanity, I guess. I don't know, but we're going to get into it, right? But to you, you're in the fog. You can't see that you're holding the match that keeps burning your own life down. Okay, so let me give you some examples of what self-sabotage actually looks like in real life. All right, procrastination. About 20% of the adult population struggles with chronic procrastination, and that's not laziness. It's a self-defense mechanism. And I am guilty as charged of procrastination. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Well, I've got this other crap I got to do first before I do this thing that's really important to me and my goals. I got laundry I got to do. I got dishes I got to do first. I got to clean that thing I've been meaning to clean for a month, but today, right now, because I want to go do this, or I have to go do this, I'm going to go clean this thing that's been sitting there for a month. That kind of procrastination. Okay. And then we have relationship sabotage. This includes criticizing your partner, picking fights, stonewalling, withdrawing, being defensive, showing contempt, jealousy, lack of trust, um, or engaging in affairs, even, right? You push away the very people who could help you to heal or reach your goals. Another one is perfectionism, setting standards so impossibly high that you're guaranteed to fail, and then using that failure as proof that you shouldn't even try to do anything. Self-neglect. You're not going to the doctor when you're sick, not going to the dentist to keep up on your checkups, okay? You're skipping meals, you're not sleeping, you're letting the environment deteriorate around you. You're treating yourself like you don't matter. That's another one. Self-handicapping. Ooh, creating excuses before they even start so that when you do fail, you can blame the excuse instead of your ability. Owie. Ooh, that one stings. So guilty of that one. I used to be so guilty of that one, right? I'm not even going to try because I know because of this particular excuse, I'm already going to fail. So why the hell am I going to even waste my time trying? I didn't study for the test because I was too stressed. Translation, if I fail, it's not because I'm not smart enough, right? This is an example. But all of these behaviors, they're not random and they're not character flaws. They are strategies. Screwed up strategies, but strategies nonetheless, okay? And the paradox that nobody talks about, okay? Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Self-sabotage actually aims to protect you from some of your deepest fears: rejection, humiliation, failure, right? The Innocent Lives Foundation has all kinds of information on their website about this, right? It's a protection mechanism that's built inside of you. So read that again, listen to that again. Self-sabotage is actually trying to protect you. It's your way of trying to protect yourself kind of unconsciously. Your brain has decided that the risk of trying and failing is more dangerous than the certainty of not trying at all. Say that again. Your brain has decided that the risk of trying and failing is more dangerous than the certainty of not trying at all. So it creates this elaborate defense mechanism to keep you from ever getting close enough to success to experience the pain of losing it. What? Right? And when you're in a perceived threat situation, like the risk of failing or succeeding, your amygdala, right, signals the release of stress hormones like cortisol, preparing your body for fight or flight. And for someone who's been traumatized, you, me, okay, success feels just as threatening as failure. Whoa, think about that. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between the danger of failure and the danger of success. Both trigger the same alarm bells within your nervous system. So you sabotage, you procrastinate, you self-destruct, because at least then you're in control of the outcome. You're in control of the downfall. You're in control of the spiral. At least then you cannot be blindsided by the disappointment. Ooh. But here's the problem, okay? There's a big problem with that. The thing that's trying to protect you, what your brain thinks is a protection mechanism, is actually killing you and making it much worse. Before we go deeper, I need to know if this is hitting home for you, because if it is, You're not alone. I've been there, and so have many other people in the Passion from Pain community. So drop a comment below and tell me, what is your self-sabotage pattern? I want to know. I want to help through it. I want to help you through it. I want to help connect you with other people having the same problems. Are you struggling with procrastination, relationship sabotage, perfectionism, self-neglect? Okay. I read every single comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to realize that they're not crazy. This community was built on real talk and shared experience. So don't hold back now. Don't do that, right? The only way out is through, and through sharing experiences. And if this episode is already making you think differently about yourself, hit that subscribe button and download this episode so you can come back to it when you need it. Because trust me, you're going to need to hear this one more than once. So let's keep going. So how we learn to destroy ourselves, the childhood blueprint of self-destruction, if you will. So let's talk about where this shit kind of all starts, because nobody is born sabotaging themselves. You don't come out of the womb and go, okay, let's see how well I can screw this shit up. That ain't the way it works. This is learned behavior, okay? Self-sabotage is often rooted in past experiences and learned behaviors. And for most of us, that means childhood. Individuals who experience frequent criticism or high expectations in childhood may develop a fear of failure that persists into adulthood, leading to self-sabotaging behaviors as a way to avoid criticism or disappointment. Okay, so let me paint you a picture. Okay, you're a kid, right? You tried really hard at something. You worked your little fingers to the bone, and you were so proud of the work that you did. Maybe it was a school project, maybe it was, a sport that you were going for, trying out for. Maybe you were just trying to make your parents happy. Some of us, I didn't get to experience the other, and so a lot of my experience was just trying to make my parents happy with me, right? And what happens then? Option A, you succeed. And instead of celebration, you get higher expectations. Great, but you could do better. The bar moves, the goalpost shifts, and success becomes punishment because it just means more pressure next time. Or you got option B, you fail, and you get criticism, shame, or withdrawal of love. I'm so disappointed in you. You're just like your father. Why can't you be more like your sister? Either way, trying is dangerous. Success is dangerous. Visibility is dangerous. So what do? You develop strategies to stay small, stay safe, and stay invisible. Let me tell you a story about myself when I was a kid. Now, when I was younger, I was in such a people-pleasing state of mind. I would only speak when I was spoken to. I would never really offer up conversation. And in fact, I really didn't want people to come and talk to me because I feared the conversation. I feared I was going to say the wrong things at the wrong times. I feared I was going to look stupid by the words that were coming out of my mouth, even if it was a simple hello. That's how terrified of any kind of, of any kind of conversation I was. And that fear translated into everything that I did. I feared doing different things as a kid. I feared projects. I feared putting myself out there. I feared doing speeches. I feared writing. I feared doing anything that would lead to some form of success. And the reason that I did was because the only time that I was ever disciplined in my life, whenever I did anything wrong, the couple of times I wasn't a bad child, I was one who did everything by the book to avoid this. But the only discipline that I had ever received was My adopted mother would look right at me into my little blue eyes, looking right up at her, and say, Amy, I am so disappointed in you. And I would do everything in my little power, whatever my head thought, okay, needed to be done or not done, to avoid those words coming from her mouth and landing on my ears. It impacted me so greatly that I was so afraid to go for things. Now, eventually, I did learn to get over that, but it was such a huge weight on me that kept me from trying a lot of things because I didn't want to hear those words out of her mouth. Okay. It stems back to trauma, whatever you can pinpoint it to. Okay. Now let's layer in with all of this the attachment theory. So what do? You develop these strategies to stay small, stay safe, and stay invisible. And so you develop what's called attachment trauma, attachment theory, because this is where it gets really deep. Right? For adults who have experienced attachment trauma, their nervous system may be wired to expect danger or rejection in relationships, leading to self-sabotage, such as pushing people away or avoiding intimacy kind of altogether. If we grew up with caregivers who were inconsistent, sometimes loving, sometimes cold, neglectful, physically present but emotionally absent, abusive, actively harmful, okay, physically harmful, or enmeshed, smothering, controlling, no boundaries whatsoever, no privacy, complete control over your existence, right? Then your nervous system learned that connection equals danger. That's exactly what my nervous system learned as a small child through those simple words that my mother would say to me when I would do something of disapproval in her eyes, right? As children, we model our behavior and ways of responding to distress from how our parents act. Okay. If we grew up in environments where trauma was normalized, we became primed to respond maladaptively because we were taught this was healthy. And here's the really screwed up part: neurons that fire together wire together. You like that little catchphrase? I think I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Neurons that fire together wire together. But it's so true. Our early years between birth and approximately the age of 3 are when most neural connections form, right? And when we learn a pattern of behavior during this period, it is difficult, extremely difficult to unlearn it because it is hardwired into our brains. So you're not just choosing to sabotage yourself. You're not saying, yeah, I'm just going to go and blow this whole thing up. Your brain is running an outdated survival program for childhood that just no longer serves you. Holy cow, right? There's 3 types of insecure attachment and how they sabotage, okay? One, you have anxious attachment. So you desperately want to connect, but you're terrified of abandonment. So you become clingy and demanding, right? You test your partner constantly. Do you still love me? Do you love me? You're that one. You create drama to get reassurance, okay? You're the one constantly putting out the relationship tests to see if they are actually, in fact, cheating or not, right? You're that one. You sabotage when things feel too good because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Well, I know it's coming, so I'm just going to blow this shit up right now instead of waiting for the destruction to come because I can't live in the anxiety in the meantime until the other shoe drops. Okay. Then we have avoidant attachment. You want to connect, but intimacy feels suffocating. So you withdraw. Emotionally, you use substances to block feelings. You struggle with depression from suppressing emotional needs. You pick partners who are unavailable so you never have to be vulnerable. Okay. You leave before you can be left. You convince yourself you don't need anyone. Okay. You avoid as much as you can. And then you have the disorganized attachment. You want connection and you're terrified of it. Your nervous system is completely confused. It don't know what the hell to do, right? It doesn't know if you should be zigging or zagging, and more often than not, it gets them crossed up and confused, and you got a whole mess. Okay, you engage in impulsive behaviors. You sabotage relationships. You isolate. You display unpredictable reactions to stress. You repeat traumatic patterns. You push and pull simultaneously. It's exhausting. It really is. You experience rage, anxiety, or disassociation under stress. Okay. You recreate the chaos you grew up in because it's familiar. That's what you're doing. And all three of these types, okay, all three types, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, all three types lead to the same outcome. You destroy the very thing you say you want. You destroy the very thing you say you want. So why do we keep choosing the pain? Okay, why do we keep doing this? Why? That's the big question. Why? Well, here's maybe the most painful truth of this entire episode, okay? We are compelled to choose partners who replicate the conditions of our childhood trauma. Why? Because of an innate need to achieve mastery, to finally feel accomplished at a task that we failed at as children. Whoa, whoa, what? Your subconscious is saying, maybe this time, if I love them hard enough, if I'm good enough, if I fix them, if I finally choose me, they'll finally choose me. They'll finally see me. They'll finally love me the way I needed to be loved as a child. But they won't. Because you're trying to heal a childhood wound with an adult relationship. And that never works. It doesn't work. So you keep choosing emotionally unavailable people. You keep choosing narcissists. You keep choosing people who need fixing because your nervous system recognizes that dynamic as love. Right? And every time it fails, you get more evidence. We've talked a lot about evidence. You get more evidence that you're unlovable, that you're broken, that there's something fundamentally wrong with you. That's self-sabotage at the deepest level. Not what you do, what you choose. Okay? If what I just described hit you like a freight train, I want you to know something, okay? Recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. And you just took that step. And here's what I want you to do with it now. Share this episode, send it to someone who's stuck in the same cycle you are or were, okay? If you're past it, send it to someone else who's stuck in this cycle. Send it to someone who keeps choosing the wrong people. They keep saying, I don't know why I keep falling for the same person over and over and over. Send it to them. Send it to someone who is at war with themselves and they don't know why. Okay, this isn't just information. This is a roadmap out of hell. and the more people who have it, the more lives we change. And the more lives we change, the more impact we make in community. And the more impact we make in community, the more impact we make in the world. And that is the goal. Fix ourselves for each other, as Jim Rohn said. fix ourselves for each other. I will fix me for you, and you fix you for me. Right? And don't forget to head over to passionfrompain.com. Why? That's where you're going to find all the resources. We've got the course coming and a community of people who get it, who understand, who've been there. I get it. I have walked this path. I am not just somebody who has read the material. I read the material after I walked through hell because I had to understand what happened to me. I had to understand how I was going to pull myself out because I had nobody to help me do it at all. I had to want it and I had to go for it, and I did. And now I want to share the information with you. Okay. You don't have to do this alone. Okay. People who've been through the fire and are choosing to rise up instead of staying in the ashes, that is what you find at passionfrompain.com. So drop a comment below and let me know which attachment style resonated with you the most. Are you anxious? Are you avoidant? Are you disorganized? And let's talk about it, because naming it is the first step to changing. And then discussing it and learning about it and bouncing it off of anybody else who is going through or has gone through the same thing is what is going to push the evolution within you. Nothing else. That is what will push the evolution within you. Okay, so let's get to the neuroscience of self-destruction. And this is where it gets really interesting if you're kind of a sciencey nerd, kind of like me. I kind of find it a little interesting. Okay, so your brain on self-sabotage. All right, let's get into the neuroscience, because understanding what's happening in your brain, okay, makes it a hell of a lot easier to stop judging yourself for it. Give yourself a break. Self-sabotage is less about lack of willpower and more about the brain's preference for predictability over progress. Okay, your brain is designed to keep you alive, not happy. Your brain doesn't give two shits if you're happy, but it does care a whole hell of a lot about keeping you alive. And one of the ways it keeps you alive is by creating predictable patterns, even if those patterns are destroying you, right? Your brain is going to go the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance is recognizing the patterns, right? The brain does all of this to create a predictable future. The pathway of self-sabotage consistently attempts to reaffirm us to old emotional ways, even if they're toxic and unhealthy. They're predictable. And research does show that the brain loves certainty more than its own physical health. Ooh, think about that. Your brain would rather be miserable and predictable than happy and uncertain. And we have the amygdala to blame for this, of course, right? The overzealous bodyguard in our minds. The amygdala, the part of your brain that's responsible for processing emotional reactions, signals the release of stress hormones like cortisol when faced with a perceived threat. For someone with a history of trauma, the amygdala is hyperactive. It sees threats everywhere. A delayed text message, a slight change in tone, someone achieving something that you haven't. All of these can trigger a full stress response. And when your amygdala is screaming, danger, 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 your prefrontal cortex, okay, the part of the brain that's responsible for rational decision making, it just goes offline. It's like, oh, amygdala's at it again. Peace out. Okay, you're not thinking clearly, you are reacting. And your reactions are based on outdated threat assessments from childhood. And this is why you can, and this is why you can know logically that you're self-sabotaging yourself and still not be able to stop. This is how you can know logically that you're self-sabotaging and not be able to stop. This is how you stay stuck in these relationships and are not able to escape. You get people who ask all the time, why don't they just leave these unhealthy relationships? This is why. It's all neuroscience. It's all chemical, right? And then the dopamine trap. So let's layer that onto it. Okay. When stress is triggered, it affects the ventral tegmental area, or the VTA circuits underlying motivated behavior, right? So translation, when you're stressed, which is if you have trauma, is most of the time, the reward pathways in your brain get hijacked. When you're stressed, the reward pathways in your brain, they get hijacked. You stop being motivated by long-term goals and you start being motivated by immediate relief. And what provides immediate relief? Procrastination, because it avoids the anxiety. Substance use, it numbs the pain. Picking fights releases tension, anger, rage. Quitting just removes the pressure, right? All forms of self-sabotage provide a short-term dopamine hit. They feel good in the moment because they reduce the immediate discomfort. But long-term, it's destroying you. And avoidance provides short-term relief, but reinforces anxiety kind of long-term. When you're training your brain that self-sabotage essentially equals relief, right? Every time you repeat the pattern, you're strengthening that neural pathway. Okay, you get stuck in this habitual loop. It's a habit that forms, right? And habits form through a cue, routine, reward loop stored in the basal ganglia. And here's how it works with self-sabotage. The cue, you get an opportunity. That's a job interview, a date, a project, an opportunity comes up. The routine, you engage in self-sabotaging behavior. You procrastinate, you pick a fight, you self-medicate, right? On the reward, you avoid the anxiety of potentially failing. Your brain logs this. Self-sabotage equals safety. And the next time the cue appears, your brain automatically triggers this routine. You're not choosing to sabotage anymore. You're just on autopilot, right? But the good news, and there is good news, hallelujah, praise the Lord. There is good news, okay? There is a critical piece emerging from research in neuroplasticity that shows that the brain can create sustainable changes in these self-sabotaging patterns, and they can be downregulated. Whoa. How cool. Your brain is not fixed, right? Neural pathways can be rewired, but it takes conscious, repeated, disciplined effort. All the things that we hate. Okay, you have to interrupt the pattern. You have to create new pathways. You have to teach your nervous system that safety doesn't come from staying small. It comes from acting in alignment with who you are becoming. Right? Let's talk about something that most therapists won't say directly. Okay, why does self-sabotage serve us? How does it serve us? Why is this a thing? Okay, why do we keep doing it? We need to understand this so that we can break this, right? The more we educate ourselves and the more we understand something that's going on with us, the easier it is to break free from it. Okay, so why self-sabotage serves you and why that's a problem. Okay, there's secondary gains that are happening here. So let's talk about something that most therapists won't say directly. Self-sabotage works, and that's why you keep doing it. So from a psychodynamic perspective, self-sabotage serves as a manifestation of deep-seated intra-psychic conflicts and unconscious motivations. Okay. In other words, you're getting something out of staying stuck. These are called secondary gains, and they're usually unconscious. But what does self-sabotage give you, right? It gives you protection from vulnerability. Okay, you're never if you never truly try, you'll never truly fail. procrastination may serve as a defense against the anxiety associated with potential failure or success. Okay, your ego stays intact because you can always say, I didn't really try. I didn't give it my all. But I gave it my all, right? But you allow yourself to get off the hook because of that, right? And two, it's a confirmation of negative beliefs. And the research is showing that individuals with lower self-esteem are more prone to self-sabotage because they have a more pessimistic view of their abilities, consistent with self-verification theory. Okay, people prefer feedback consistent with their self-view, right? Even if it's negative. Say, if you believe you're unlovable and you sabotage every relationship, you get to be right. And being right, even about something terrible, feels safer than being wrong. It's backwards, I know. But this is what's going on, right? Number 3, avoidance of change. Change is terrifying, even positive change. Individuals may simultaneously harbor conflicting desires and fears related to success, intimacy, or personal growth. Self-sabotage lets you stay exactly where you are. Miserable, yeah, but familiar. Okay. And then number 4, loyalty to a family of origin. Okay, some individuals unconsciously sabotage success out of loyalty to family of origin circumstances. If someone in your family is broke, unhappy, or stuck, succeeding is going to feel like a betrayal to them, like you're saying you're better than them. So you sabotage to stay loyal to the tribe, right? Or number 5, the punishment. Right? An overly harsh superego may drive individuals to unconsciously sabotage their efforts as a form of self-punishment or to alleviate guilt associated with success or pleasure. So if you were taught that you don't deserve good things, success creates guilt. Self-sabotage alleviates that guilt. You're punishing yourself before life can punish you, essentially, right? And we went over this earlier in this episode. And all of this research, done by James Tobin, PhD in psychology, has done some incredible research on self-sabotage. And I've linked his information in the description. Go check it out. It is really fascinating work. Okay. But let's look at the cost, the brutal truth about the cost of all of this, right? What serves you in the short term is it's destroying you in the long term. Right? It serves you in the short term, but it's destroying you in the long term. So self-sabotage gives you temporary relief at the cost of your entire future. Right? You're risking never getting married and having the kids and having the family life that you want or the relationship that you want because you're consistently destroying the relationships before you get to that point. You're not getting the career that you want because you're consistently destroying or sabotaging your attempts for promotion or your attempts for interviewing for the higher positions that you've dreamed about going for or applying for, right? Whatever it is. In the moment, it's a temporary relief because you're avoiding the stress. But you are doing it at the cost of your entire future. And your dreams. And this is going to keep you unhappy, keep you depressed, and either perpetuate or begin some really dark cycles if we don't stop this, right? It keeps you safe at the cost of your dreams, and it protects your ego at the cost of your potential, right? And the longer you stay in this pattern, the more evidence you accumulate that you are incapable of change until one day you believe it's just who you are. There's that word again, evidence, right? The brain, the logical side of the brain needs the evidence. And if you are giving it evidence, showing it, okay, that this self-sabotage is the truth, that what you're telling yourself is the truth, then that is what it's going to believe. And the harder it's going to be to break free from these cycles, because your brain has seen the evidence. You've given it evidence that this is who you are, right? And that's when self-sabotage stops being a strategy and becomes your identity. And that's when you are just totally screwed. We don't want that. We don't want that, okay? How many of you just realized you've been getting something out of staying stuck? Okay. Drop a comment and tell me which secondary gain kind of hit you the closest to home. Are you protecting yourself from vulnerability? Are you confirming negative beliefs? Are you staying loyal to a family that never supported your success? The comment section is where the real healing begins. It's where we stop pretending we have it all together and start being honest about the work that we have to do. So join the conversation. You'll be surprised how many people are going through the exact same thing and are willing to help you through. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that button, subscribe, like, hit the notifications, turn it all on, download the episode, okay? Because we're just getting to the good part, the actual solution. I don't leave y'all with this information and keep you hanging, okay, right? I give you the resources and the solution and the action and what you can do to get yourself past this, okay? So, breaking the cycle, okay? Philosophy, strategy, and action. This is my favorite part of these episodes, right? Getting our hands dirty and rolling up our sleeves and getting to work. Because ultimately, that is what is going to fix everything. Okay. The Stoics, they had it right? Self mastery through discipline. So let's stop with the diagnosis. Let's talk about the cure. The ancient Stoics understood something crucial about human nature. Destructive emotions result from errors in judgment, and maintaining will in accord with nature is virtuous. Okay. Destructive emotions result from errors in judgment, and maintaining a will in accord with nature is virtuous. What does that mean? Your emotions aren't the problem. Your thoughts about your emotions are the problem. Okay. Stoic philosophy emphasizes self-mastery, self-examination, self-control, personal responsibility, and objectivity. Stoicism teaches that without discipline, we float through life kind of as passengers, right? That self-sabotage happens when you're a passenger in your own life. You're reacting to your conditioning instead of choosing your actions. You're in the passenger seat, and this conditioning is in the driver's seat, right? So what's the Stoic solution? Be the captain, be the driver, take control. The dichotomy of control. What the control? How do we do that? Okay. We cannot control the things that happen to us, but we can control our reaction to them. Famous quote from Epictetus. You cannot control your past. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control your initial emotional reaction. You cannot control your childhood conditioning. You cannot control whether you succeed or fail. You can, however, control your next action. You can control where you place your attention. You can control your discipline. You can control your integrity with yourself. You can control whether or not you try. Self-sabotage happens when you focus on what you can't control and neglect what you can control. Self-sabotage happens when you focus on what you cannot control and neglect what you can control. When you obsess over whether you'll succeed instead of just doing the work. When you fixate on what might go wrong instead of taking the right next step. Okay. The Stoic framework is simple. Focus on your actions, let go of the outcome. Okay. But let's talk about how we retrain the nervous system. We were talking about how this is ingrained in our nervous system. How do we retrain that nervous system? Okay, the Stoics practice something called radical, or they practice something very radical. Okay, voluntary hardship to expand, okay, their window of tolerance and build resilience. They would intentionally fast. They would intentionally sleep on hard surfaces, wear uncomfortable clothing, not as punishment, but as practice. Why? Because resistance is uncomfortable, but resistance is the catalyst for growth. It shows us the boundaries of our ability and shows us or allows us to surpass them. So for you, this means do the thing you're avoiding before you feel ready. Okay? Sit with the discomfort instead of numbing it. Feel it. Feel the feelings. Feel the discomfort. Feel the pain. Right? Take that call you've been dreading. Just answer. Have the conversation that you've been putting off. Okay? Apply for the job you think you're not qualified for. Every time you act despite the fear, you are rewiring that nervous system. You're teaching your amygdala that this thing you've been terrified of isn't actually dangerous. Negative visualization. Okay, preparing for sabotage. Negative visualization is the periodic practice of imagining the worst case scenario. This doesn't create pessimism. It forms optimists, okay, who don't take things for granted and they treasure every second. Okay, apply this to self-sabotage. Before the opportunity comes, visualize yourself sabotaging it. See yourself procrastinating. See yourself picking the fight. See yourself quitting. See it clearly. Then ask, if I sabotage this, what am I protecting myself from? What am I afraid will happen if I succeed? Name the fear. Stare it down. You know, stare it down. Like, growl at it if you have to. And then decide, is protecting myself from that fear worth sacrificing my entire future? Like, are you really worth sacrificing everything? Like, really? Really? I'm staring you down. The answer is usually no. Okay. Another one, daily practices. So 5 non-negotiables. So here's your action plan. These are daily practices, not when you feel like it practices, but daily practices. You do them every day. Create the habit. Okay. Create the evidence for your mind, for your brain to rewire. Okay. Every morning, do a morning audit. Identify your sabotage triggers. It's going to take you about 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the morning. Okay. Before you start your day, ask, what opportunities or responsibilities am I facing today? What do I got to do today? Which of these trigger my sabotage patterns? Crap, I have an interview. Oh man, that's a sabotage pattern. I know what I'm going to do, right? What would self-sabotage look like today? And what would it look like today if you were to do it? And what would aligned action look like instead? What would it look like if I didn't sabotage the thing today? What would that look like? What are the possibilities? What are the good things that can come from me not sabotaging it? Okay, write it down, because self-discipline requires understanding your psyche through radical self-honesty. Okay. Number 2, the 5-second rule. Interrupt the pattern. When you feel the urge to sabotage, procrastinate, pick a fight, quit, numb out, count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I know that Mel Robbins talks about this a lot. Okay. Why? Because it works. It's simple. It works. Okay. Count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then move. Physically move your body before your brain can talk you out of it. Get it done. This interrupts the habit loop. Okay, it hijacks the automatic pattern and gives your prefrontal cortex a chance to kick back in. Okay, and take back over. Number 3, opposite action. Behavioral therapists view self-sabotage as a learned response that provides temporary relief from anxiety. Okay, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is effective in identifying, challenging, and changing negative thought patterns fueling self-defeating behaviors. Okay, and that's what it's good at. So the core of CBT technique for self-sabotage: do the opposite of what your sabotage pattern tells you to do. If your pattern is to withdraw, reach out. If your pattern is to procrastinate, start immediately. Not in 5 minutes, not after this video, not after lunch. Nope, right now. Now. If your pattern is to pick fights, extend kindness, give out hugs instead. Right? If your pattern is to quit, commit for one more day. Okay? You're not trying to feel differently. You're just trying to act differently. The feelings will follow with the action. Okay? It may take time, but it will. You're just trying to act differently. Number 4, somatic release. Get it out of your body. Seen a lot in the way of somatic therapy lately, and it's a wonderful thing. One thing that I used to do when I was going through my journey, and I still do it, was rock and roll concerts, and just the act of moving and being in those mosh pits and releasing the negative energy and the toxicity in those concerts with the rage music and angry music is what really helped me get it out of my system. Okay, moving and just getting the energy out really helped. And trauma therapists and research is showing that physical practices, like just going for a walk in nature, journaling and exercising, have these calming effects on the brain and nervous system. Right, so you don't have to go to a rock and roll show and go completely, raging into a mosh pit. That's what worked for me. But I had a lot of anger and a lot of rage inside of me, and that's what worked, right? So, do what's good for you, right? So if it's the walk in nature, and I love those now those are perfect for me. Okay. Do the exercising and that have the calming effect and get the negativity out of the nervous system, get it out of the system. Okay. Your self-sabotage isn't just mental, right? It is stored in your body as tension, as anxiety, and as dysregulation. So you need to move around. Okay. Go for the walk. No phone, no podcast, just walk. Well, you can listen to my podcast. Okay. Listen to my podcast. Joking. Nothing. Just walk in nature, right? Journal, free write for 10 minutes, no editing, no judgment, just brain dump. I call them brain dumps, right? Get it out of your head. Shake your body, literally just stand there and shake like an animal, releasing stress, flop around like a fish on the deck. All right. Breathe, box breathing. Inhale 1, hold. Exhale 1, right? Inhale 4, hold 4. Exhale, hold. Exhale 4, hold 4. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't get that out there. That was a tongue twister for a second, but I got it. Okay, but these strategies, they regulate the nervous system in times of stress by helping you stay grounded in the present, right? And then 5, the evening review. Okay, do this every night. Collect the evidence. The evidence. You need the evidence to prove to your brain, to the logical side of your brain, right, that you can do this. Right? So at the end of each day, write it down. One moment where I didn't sabotage myself today. No self-sabotaging today. Write it down. Just one. Okay. If you had more than one, cool, you can write them down too, but just one is all you need. One action I took that aligned with who I am becoming. And one fear I faced even when I was terrified. Okay. Regular reflection on thoughts and actions help in understanding behaviors and improving self-discipline. Okay, you're building evidence that you're not the person who always sabotages. You're building a new identity, one action at a time. And this is for the long game, right? For the rewiring. And remember that rewiring takes time. So the research in neuroplasticity continues to show that the brain can create sustainable changes and self-sabotage patterns can be downregulated. But it takes time. Okay? And they're saying that, it can take approximately 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. That means you're going to feel like you're faking it for at least 2 months. Okay, and I've got a whole episode on faking it till you make it. Okay, that I want you to go listen to. Okay, it's not about being inauthentic, right? It's about faking it until you make it, until you get there, until it's automatic, until it's a habit, right? You're gonna want to quit, and you're gonna want to sabotage the process of stopping sabotage. You're gonna want to sabotage the stop sabotage process. You are. Okay, but you got to fake it through until you get to that 2-month mark when the autonomy kicks in, right? And that's normal. It's expected. It's part of the process. Okay, the question isn't, will I feel like sabotaging? You will. You're gonna. Okay, flat out. You're gonna feel like sabotaging everything, right? The question really is, will I act? Will I act on the self-sabotage? And every single time you don't act on self-sabotage, you are one step closer to your freedom. Wow. So here's where the rubber meets the road. I just gave you 5 daily practices that will literally rewire your brain if you stick with them. But here's the thing, knowing isn't doing. Right? You can have all the knowledge in the world, read all the books, but it doesn't mean a damn thing until you do the things, you do the work. Action. Build the evidence. Do the things. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to screenshot this episode and I want you to post it to your story. Tag me, okay? And tell me which of the 5 practices you're committing to for the next 66 days. Make it public. Make yourself accountable. Post it out there for everyone else to see. I'm committing to this process for myself, okay? You are more likely to stick with it when you do. And if you need even more support, more guidance, head over to passionfrompain.com. Okay? We've got the community doing this right alongside you. Okay? Put it in the comment section. Okay? Drop a comment telling me which one action you're going to take today, not tomorrow, today, right now, to interrupt your sabotaging patterns. And then interact with the other people that are commenting. Cheer them on. Make this a movement, right? Download this episode and come back to it and listen to it every week if you need to. This isn't a one and done conversation. This is just the beginning of your rewiring. You're going to need to remotivate and re-inspire yourself. Remind yourself why you're doing this. And remind yourself what self-sabotage really is. And remind yourself that you can absolutely end it. You can rewire your brain. You can end the self-sabotage patterns. Okay, but you're going to have to remind yourself because in the beginning, those instincts are strong. So strong. You're going to need to remind yourself. So download this episode and come back to it every single time you feel like self-sabotaging. Okay? It'll help you get through. Trust me. Okay? So let's bring this whole thing home. All right. All right. You didn't survive everything. You survived to just spend the rest of your life at war with yourself. Okay. You didn't escape the toxic relationships, the manipulative families, the abusive situations just to become your own abuser. That's not why you escaped. That's not why you left. That's not why you survived. Self-sabotage is the way they still control you. They still control you through it. Through the voice in your head that sounds like you but was programmed by them. Every time you procrastinate on your dreams, you're letting them win. Every time you sabotage a healthy relationship, you are proving them right. Every time you quit before you finish, you're staying loyal to the version of who you are. You're staying loyal to their version of who you are. Screw that. Screw that. Screw them. Okay? Because the cycle of self-sabotage isn't self-improvement. Breaking the cycle is self-liberation. It's liberating yourself from their grip. Okay? Because they still have a grip on you even when you are gone. It's the most rebellious thing you can do because the people who hurt you, who broke you down, who made you small, they're counting on you staying small. They're counting on you destroying yourself so they don't have to. Don't give them the satisfaction. Here's your homework. Okay. For the next 7 days, do one thing you've been avoiding. Just one, not 10. One, just one. And when you do it, when you take that action, despite the fear, despite the voice telling you you'll fail, despite every instinct screaming at you to sabotage, notice how it feels. Not the outcome. Okay. The act of choosing yourself. Notice how that feels. That feeling, okay, that's power. That's freedom. Okay. That's you taking your life back. And once you feel it, you'll want more. Yeah. So before we end, I want to say something. Okay. Thank you for being here. Okay. Thank you for doing the hard work. Thank you for not staying stuck. Thank you for choosing to face this instead of avoid it. This community, Passion from Pain, is built on people like you. People who refuse to let their past write their future. People who are done being small. People who are ready to rise the hell up. If you got value from this episode, here's what I need you to do. Subscribe and download. Make sure you never miss an episode. This is a journey, okay, not a destination, right? Save this episode and send it to a person who needs to hear it. Okay? Just one. That's how we change lives. Just one person at a time. And leave a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me your breakthrough. Okay? Tell me your struggle. Let's build a community where we don't pretend to have it all together. Okay? We show up honestly and support each other anyway, in the mess. Okay? And then head over to passionfrompain.com, and that's where you'll find everything else. Okay? Follow on social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe here on YouTube. Subscribe or follow along on Spotify. And listen, if you're on the edge right now, and if you're struggling, okay, if you need support beyond this podcast, reach out. DM me, email me, find me on any platform. I mean that. Okay? You're not alone. You're not broken. You're not too far gone. Okay. You're just running outdated software, and it's time for an upgrade. This is Passion from Pain. Season 2 is just getting started, and we're not holding back. In the next episode, the next episode is bringing even more transformation. You're not going to want to miss it. And so until then, keep getting back up, keep choosing yourself, and keep proving them wrong, because they are. Okay. I'll see you in the next one. I love you guys.